So I'm at the Tip-Off Club today, which is a phenomenal group of Auburn friends and been around a long time. A lot of veterans in that organization. And my pastor, Jeremy, decided that he was going to start off the prayer with Psalm 23. You know, about walking through the valley of the shadow of death and all that stuff. I'm like, we lose one game at Neville Arena and we're already at Psalm 23. I said, Jeremy, you maybe wanted to wait a couple weeks before we went to Psalm 23.
Yeah,
Uh,
you see the rest of the schedule, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's a little quick on the trigger for that, but that's oh man. Yeah. So you look at West Virginia, and you look at Texas A&M, and you see a lot of similarities. Um, tough, physical, hard nosed. Interestingly, this year his team's actually better offensively, than it even maybe is defensively. They turn you over 15 times a game, great ball pressure, make it hard for you to run your offense. They got six, transfers that are, older. We're all old kids. We tried to recruit Stevenson, their leading scorer from South Carolina a year ago. Great player. They play the right way. They played a brutal schedule. Um, you know, their losses now. I mean, they've lost to Texas and Baylor and Kansas, and they've lost at Oklahoma State, at Oklahoma, at Kansas State in overtime. I mean, and they're like 30, I think like 33 in the net or something like that. So this is a team that's in the field, and this is very very much would be very similar to a first round NCAA tournament type game, as was last night, as was last night. And so um, um, they get to the line a lot again, just like Texas A&M. Texas A&M is like fourth in the nation getting to the free throw line. These guys are 11th in the nation and make 17 free throws. Last night, having not watched the tape, I wasn't able to answer quite like what happened once the game got to 10. I really couldn't tell you probably until I went back and looked at it. And we missed some opportunities to score, and then we fouled them. Like late in the game, even though you're down within 5 or 6 minutes in a 10-point game, don't foul. You can try to turn them over a little bit, but get a stop and see if you get it down to 8. Get a stop, see if you can get it down to 6 or 5. And instead, we didn't score and we fouled, and that combination didn't allow us to, get it much closer. Like the series, I like this format. Um, Auburn has held its own in this series. We've been in it, um, and we've had some really good wins for the league. Um, this will be a real challenge in Morgantown.
Bruce, you mentioned how physical they are and how old they are. I think a lot of them are fifth year seniors.
Yeah, it's like
Uh,
the sixth oldest team in college basketball.
yeah, that's kind of like the mantra of a Bob Huggins team. And how difficult is it to get your guys who are kind of on the younger scale ready for these guys who are almost grown adults?
Yeah. Well, by virtue of the fact that look, once you get to this point in the season, we're all older. We've all been through it, and I think the biggest challenge um, is going to be um, again, for example, Texas A&M played last night like they had to have that game to get in the NCAA tournament, and in some ways that was a game um, that when you look at six teams going to the NCAA tournament from the SEC, you know, I don't know that Texas A&M is going to finish in the top two, but they're going to be somewhere between 3 and 6, I would imagine, maybe 7, whatever it's going to be. This is a kind of a similar game. Um, West Virginia is going to have a lot of opportunities in their league, as will we, to be able to get some resume wins and be able to get in the tournament. But you still got to get them, and you got to get them when they're on the schedule. Last night was one on the schedule, a potential to get one against the field, and we didn't get it. And so I don't. Our guys will Um, I think the understanding the importance of it, and we've put ourselves in position, um, which is all you can ask for at this time. Now, can we take advantage? Can we take advantage of the position we put ourselves in? And last night we weren't good enough.
Bruce, you mentioned have an opportunity to get one against the field. This challenge, you guys have always had high level opponents here, but the opportunity to get a quad one coming off of a loss for you guys. How much do you guys like the opportunity to bounce back here? With like you mentioned, it would be a big win for your record.
Yeah, I mean it's an opportunity, and it's the quad one things bounce back and forth. Obviously, Northwestern's back in as a quad one. Um, Arkansas still a quad one, and we held the record. We were 7-0 against quad twos. Now we're 7-1. Although I think Texas A&M now is a quad one. So, anyways, no, these games are people can look at the schedule. You certainly look at it and go, wow, like this is probably the toughest 12-game stretch I can ever remember in my career. But at the same time, it's an incredible opportunity.
Bruce, what is it like for you as a coach, but also just preparing your team to play a team you haven't played too often in an environment you haven't gone to, a place you haven't traveled before?
Yeah, it's what we'll try to do is everything like we always do. I believe very much in the routine. It's not superstition. It's routine. And so the things that we'll do 2 days before an SEC game, we'll do again today. Like for example, even though we played late last night, today we're gonna have to guard West Virginia. It's not going to be any fun. The guys aren't going to love it because they're probably some of them played some heavy minutes, but we've got to be able to get tape on how we want to try to guard them. Because tomorrow, when we practice tomorrow, it'll be less than 24 hours before we play. We play tomorrow. We play Saturday at 11 o'clock on our clocks, correct? 12 noon Eastern, 11. Okay, so we'll be practicing tomorrow here before we leave. Inside of 24 hours, we got to get a lot of work done today. So the answer is just keep it the same, just the same routine. This is what we try to do all the time. So there is, obviously no difference.
Bruce, what did you make of the game like Jalen had last night, where he has 7 assists and 0 turnovers? Only took 5 shots.
Yeah.
So on offense, I know you talked
Yeah.
about him being aggressive. What did you
Yeah.
make of his game last night?
Well, they ran him off the line. Really came out on him a little bit, um, which gave him an opportunity to sort of play make a little bit. He really did a good job. We worked really hard this week at playing off of 2 feet, of shot faking, couple dribbles, get in the lane, and then play make. He's got the size to see over things, and he had some really nice passes. Our spacing is good, and so when you have good spacing against teams that trap, you have the opportunity to get out of the trap and then make plays. And that's how we got a lot of our offense last night. When we weren't able to get out of the trap, and that happened on a few occasions, it was effective. So, Jalen, in many ways acts like a big guard. He physically held his own against a fairly physical front line. And yes, if we could have got him 10 shots instead of 5, and he could have made a couple, then there's a chance obviously the outcomes are different. Um, Again, last night we played really well for the first 15 minutes of that game. Um, lost a close game at the end of the first half with some turnovers and some mistakes and some missed shots. But Texas A&M made 3 big threes that were late clock contested shots. There's nothing you can do about, and they made them. And those 9 points kind of kept them in the game early. So sometimes there's just not a lot. It's good defense, better offense.
Following up on that, like how much does having a guy like Jalen like that distributing help, especially when you play a team like West Virginia, where Bob Huggins' defenses are going to
Yeah.
do some of the same stuff.
Yeah, yeah. If they press us, it does help having another playmaker out there and a guy that's unselfish and sees the floor and 7 assists, no turnover. It's pretty darn special against a team like Texas A&M that'll turn you over.
Bruce, we saw Chris play more of that backup 4 spot yesterday. Was that more of a matchup thing, or is that something that you kind of like that you might see more of him behind Jalen?
Yeah, I think that a combination of a couple things that Chris was starting at the three and Al was backing him up, and then when he got hurt and just prior to getting hurt, Al started playing better, and then Al seemed really comfortable with Lior behind him, and I was liking what I was getting out of that position, and so just to put a little bit more experience on the floor, and to give chance for Al and Chris to play a little bit together, we gave that a shot. Very very tough to ask Chris to come back after being out a couple weeks, and then of course he took 7 stitches on Monday, the first day back, in a pretty violent collision, and so man, it had to be really hard for Chris to be able to play to a high level given, but he didn't. He was fine out there, but just to put a little bit more experience out there.
Two more questions, Brian Matthews.
Bruce, this team improved a lot after the Georgia loss, in my opinion. Do you think this team has the potential to do the same after this loss?
Well, if it does, we'll have a chance to win some games. If it doesn't, then we won't.
Johan, first time he hadn't played last night. Anything he needs to do to get back in the lineup?
Just kind of answer the question with Chris.